what happens? The computer will type up an evaluation for your child. Now, what's wrong with that, Dr. Umar? If I'm going to get a 30-page report with graphs on it and all types of fancy stuff, what's wrong with that? Let me tell you what's wrong with that. Did the computer interview the mother?
No.
Did the computer know that that child was a victim of sex abuse?
No.
Did the computer know that that child been in 5 or 6 or 7 different schools?
No.
Did the computer know that that child was a victim of bullying? Did the computer know that that girl lost her grandmother who raised her last year and her depression is the reason why she's not achieving and not some artificial learning disability? Do you understand me? Does the computer know that that child goes to one of the lowest performing schools in Boston or Norwood or Brockton? Did the computer know that the classroom teacher is lazy and barely leaves her desk to teach the children anything? Did the computer know that? No, the computer didn't. The computer is making a determination exclusively based off what? The scores I gave it, the input. The input. So y'all better be real careful because you know we think more is better. So some of y'all get a 30-page report and say, oh yeah, Dr. Umar, they got recommendations. Give me that report. I look at the report. This is a computer-generated report. Yeah, there's psychologists out there who don't even write reports. They do the testing, plug it into the computer, and hit return. I've never used a computer-generated report in my life. You know why? Because what the mother tells me, what the father tells me, what the teacher tells me, what the child tells me is going to be far more influential on my determination of disability than any score that I get. The score means nothing without your interpretation. Your child missed a whole year of school. First of all, let's understand something. Post-COVID, you shouldn't be looking for no special ed anyway, because your children have missed about a year to 2 years anyway, being at home on the COVID quarantine. So how your child coming back first, second year of full-time school after being home for a year or two in COVID quarantine, and you talking about a learning disability? Listen, most black kids in America are about 2 grades behind as a result of the COVID quarantine. So if the teacher calls you up and say your son is in the 5th grade reading on the 3rd, we think he need to be tested, he might need an IEP, time out. If he's 2 years behind, couldn't that be explained by the 2 years he was sitting home on the laptop and your teacher taught him absolutely nothing when the kids was only getting 1 or 2 hours of instruction a day and that was barely spent learning anything? I gotta stop letting people hustle y'all. Because right now we're dealing with one of the biggest explosions in special ed referrals for black children around the country because all these schools that, and it's not all their fault, but all these schools that miseducated during the COVID quarantine years, they're now looking at all the money they can make off of all these black kids if they put them in special ed. And y'all signing y'all name off. And then y'all call me up and say, Dr. Umar, they put my child in the learning support. They put my child in autistic support. They put my child in emotional support. They put my child in life skills support. But you leaving out your role in the academic lynching of your child. Because before we can special educate your child, you have to sign your name 4 times. You have to sign permission for me to evaluate. You have to sign agreement with my evaluation. You have to sign the IEP, and you have to sign the special education service agreement. 4 signatures. If any of your children have an IEP in this room, you signed your name 4 times before they put your son on the auction block of special ed. So make sure you take your responsibility in the role that you play. Okay? Next point. Most inner city schools, if your child goes to an economically disadvantaged school, or your child goes to school in an economically disadvantaged community, that school 9 times out of 10 get Title I money. You could go on the school district's website and you can see which schools get Title I money. The Title I money comes from the Lyndon Baines Johnson's Elementary and Secondary Schools Act of 1965. Lyndon Baines Johnson said if we want to battle poverty, we got to make sure black kids can read and count. So they start sending millions of dollars into the schools. So if your child goes to a school that gets Title I funding from the federal government, why aren't you making them use that money? Why aren't you making them use that money to provide your sons and daughters with tutoring? Why are you letting them send them straight to special ed? Y'all see that? If my child is in a Title I school, the first question I'm asking of the principal is, where are the tutors at? Y'all, what are you doing with the Title I money? You're trying to hustle my child for special ed money, but you already are getting money to work on the reading and math skills of the black children in this school. Y'all see how that works? So you got to call them to task. And what you don't want to do is let them use the same teacher that miseducated your child from 8 to 3 o'clock?
Come on now.
And pay them to hang around from 3 to 5 so they can get extra money in a Christmas shopping check? Are y'all following me? Because see, this is the time of year that the teachers want to stay behind and get extra time so they can buy them Christmas gifts. And you's a fool if you let the same teacher who can't teach your child from 8 to 3 be the tutor. If she can't teach them 30 hours a week how to read, what makes you think she's going to do it 10 hours a week after school? The tutor should never be the teacher making the accusation that your child needs special help. In fact, if I were you, I would dig in my pocket. You got the money because you get your nails done. You got the money, you get your hair done. You got your money, you got the BBLs and all that. Fellas, you got the money, you got the Jordans and all that. All you got to do is sacrifice some Jordan money and some nail money and pay for your child to get a tutor. Tutoring is the kryptonite to special education. I don't know why y'all looking for IEPs when half of our children's academic problems can be solved with tutoring. And guess what? A high school student might be good enough in most cases. A high school student. Your child can't read in the 5th grade, go find you an 11th or 12th grader. Pay them $20. $20 twice a week for an hour. $40 a week. You can afford that.
For real.
That's all it takes. You want an IEP with all this paperwork and a psych eval. And you got these white folks making you think they're going to do something so special for your child. You need to ask them a question. How many children you put in special ed graduated on time? Ask them! They don't give you that part. But I know why a lot of y'all end up falling victim, because they talk about special ed in such a grandiose manner. Extra time, extra test time, one-on-one. He'll never be left down again. We got all kind of supports in the smaller class. And y'all be like, my God, special ed must be the truth. Oh, it's the truth, all right.
It's a hustle.
It's the truth, all right. You keep on messing with special ed if you want. And if your child can't read, when they go home for them 2 weeks on Christmas break, they need to have a tutor for them 2 weeks while they're on Christmas break. Ain't no hanging around watching football games and playing with Christmas toys. You can't read, and we're going to get you some help so that you can read. If you can't get a high school student, get you a retired teacher. There's retired teachers everywhere. Find you, go to the closest church. They ain't doing nothing there anyway. Go to the closest church and ask them where your teacher's at. I need a teacher, your retired teacher, who can work with my son or daughter 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week. It's a shame. Most of our kids are in special ed because you're too lazy to spend your money to help them. That's right. And let's just be honest, isn't that really the narrative of Black America anyway? We don't want to spend our money to do anything for ourselves. Oh no. Not as a group. As an individual, oh hell yeah. But together, you ain't thinking about it. When the last time y'all had a meeting to build an institution for the community without white money or government money? Where do we have the meetings at? All over YouTube, all these conversations we having about everything except the things that matter. When we gonna have a conversation about building a black hospital in Boston, building a black school in Boston, building a black supermarket in Boston, building a black bank in Boston? When we gonna have them conversations? $30 billion on hair a year? $30 billion on hair? And the hair still don't look right. Lord. Good God Almighty. So one girl, she was like 100 pounds, skinny little thing, with like 500 pounds of hair. I thought the hair was a damn Superman cape. Now, let's talk about behavior. If your child has an IEP, which means they're a special ed child, which means they have a disability, those three things go together, y'all. Okay? If you have an IEP, you're a special ed child. That means you have a psychological evaluation somewhere that qualified you with a disability. Some of y'all think your child is not in special ed because they're not in a special ed class. Okay? That means their placement is the regular class, but they still have an IEP. And that's something else I need y'all parents to understand. Special ed placement can be the regular classroom. Did you know that your child doesn't have to leave the regular class to get their extra help? So you say, Dr. Umar, how does that work? If my child has a reading disability and the special ed placement is the class, how does it get any help? You know what's supposed to happen? The special ed teacher, the learning support teacher, is supposed to come into the classroom, sit next to the child, and work with them as you're teaching the whole class. Y'all see how that works? So the next time they want to special educate your child, just let them know before you even do any testing. Say, listen, I'm telling you now, if I let y'all test my son and y'all say he got a learning disability, the only placement I'm going to consent to is the class he's already in. I want the teacher to come in and work with my son during that skill period, but he's not leaving the class. You know what you just did? You just defeated the whole reason why the teacher wanted him tested in the first place. She wanted him tested to do what? To get him out. Special ed is the trash can. You throw black boys, you ain't interested in teaching until they're old enough to drop out and get locked up. So you let them know up front he's not leaving the classroom. That's what they do in white schools. In white schools, a lot of them white students, they stay right in the regular class, and that special ed teacher will come in there for them 45 minutes of reading instruction, or that 45 minutes of math instruction, or that 45 minutes of comprehension, or that 45 minutes of language or writing. That's what they do. But in the ghetto, you go to a place. You go to a place. A classroom of 12 to 15 black boys, kid, none of them read on grade level. Stressed out, the teacher stressed out. The only person who needs support in there is the damn teacher. But let me give y'all this. If your child has an IEP, they can only be suspended 10 total days out the entire 180-day school year. I'm going to say this again. You better remember this. If your child has an IEP, which means they're a special ed student, which means they have a disability, they can only be suspended a total of 10, cumulative, 10 days throughout the year. That means if your child got suspended 2 days in September, they got 8 days left. Your child got suspended 2 days in November, they got 6 days left. Your child got suspended 2 days in January, they got 4 days left. Your child got suspended 2 days in February, they got 2 days left. Your child got suspended 2 days in March, their 10 days is up.
And
so what do they do now?
Kicking them out of the classroom, doctor.
Say that again.
Kicking them out of the classroom is considered a in-house suspension.
In-school suspension counts as a day, yes. So if your child is suspended in school, that still counts as a day of suspension. Y'all follow me? So he said, well, he's never been out of school. He's only had in-school suspension. In-school suspension counts to the 10 days total. Now, let me clarify. After 10 days, they can suspend more, but the IEP team has to come together, conduct a manifestation determination of disability, and then the IEP team agrees, which includes you, because you're a parent, so you're a part of the team, and y'all can collectively agree that this child can be removed for more than 10 days. But let me tell you a little secret. If the school suspended your child 10 days, that is proof that they cannot meet their needs. Are y'all following me? That is proof they cannot meet their needs. So if the school suspended my child 10 days and they looking for me to approve a few more, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna call an IEP meeting, and I'm gonna make it clear to the IEP team that y'all cannot meet my son's needs. Therefore, as the federal government says, any school that cannot properly meet the needs of an IEP student must pay for them to attend private school. Did y'all hear what I just said? That is the law. If you can prove that your child's public or charter school cannot implement the IEP in that school, they must pay for a private school to do it for them. I know, because I help parents get it done all the time, all over the country. Everything. Door to door. Transportation, instruction, speech therapy, OT, PT, post-traumatic slavery therapy, everything. Some of y'all niggas need that real bad. Talking about you a Boston Celtic. Celtics can't stand black people. But listen. Listen. So, that means you should keep count of your child's suspension days. Because let me tell you what the principals do in the hood. And you're talking to a former principal. You know what they do? They will call you up. When they getting close to the 10 days, they say, damn, it's only November. We done already hit him with 7. We only got 3 for the rest of the year. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to call mom up. Hey, Miss Shaquita, Raekwon having a bad day. So this is what we going to do, because we don't want your son looking like no criminal on the paperwork. Why don't you just come and sign him out? If you come and sign Raekwon out, nobody knows. It's no suspension. It's just an early dismissal. So guess what? You get in the habit of coming up there 2-3 times a day to give Raekwon early dismissal. So then one day you hear about Dr. Umar, you hear me talking and say they can't suspend for more than